Can he hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. All right,
Okay.
well, we've got a quorum, so we can start it.
Yeah.
Okay, again, as a preliminary matter, this is Mark Leckman, Chair of the Town of Newbury Human Resources Board. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. We're holding on John Lucy, Diane Doyle,
Here.
John Ferrara,
Here.
Anthony Antico.
Here.
Thank you. I do not believe that we have any anticipated speakers on the agenda. Tracy Blaze, Town Administrator, had hoped to join us, but she's been called away to another meeting. Diane, are you aware of anyone else who may choose to speak on the agenda?
I do not see anyone else, and no one, I've had no contact to that
Okay.
effect.
Then let me take a couple of moments just to read through what will be the new norm for conducting these meetings over Zoom teleconference, at least for the foreseeable future. Good afternoon. This is the May meeting of the Human Resources Board being conducted on June 1st due to the Memorial Day weekend, which is when the date originally fell. This open meeting of the HR Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. This order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The HR Board is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the agenda of the HR Board section of the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference. In terms of meeting materials, the board members were provided material prior to the meeting for review. Relating to the meeting business ground rules, we are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. Board and committee members should be called upon in first name alphabetical order in order to ease the process.
John Lucy has joined the meeting.
John, welcome aboard.
Welcome to myself, because it took forever. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how long I'll be here, but it keeps cutting me out, so
Okay.
I'll do my best.
We're just going through the rules of the new Zoom teleconference meetings here.
Yeah.
If the board committee members wish to engage each other in discussion, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. There is an entire section here on public comment, which I'm going to hold on for now, only because as far as I know, there is no other member of the public joining us for this meeting at this point. Should any members of the public join in, Diane, please let me know, and then I will read this section which would relate to them.
Okay.
And finally, any votes that are taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote only. So with that in mind, the first order of business is to call to order and approve the prior meeting's minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of the February 24th, 2020 meeting that Diane provided for us earlier today?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes as written?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Let me take a roll call vote.
Is there any, wait, I think any discussion?
Sorry, any discussion of the meeting, of the meeting minutes before we proceed to accept?
Tony had a comment.
Tony?
Should I go on now? Yeah, I did. In fact, I should have kept the email that I sent. I had a question, it's probably technical in nature, where there seems to be a hiatus between the last time we have a meeting, the February meeting, and this time. And we all know obviously what has happened. But my question is, do we make that connection in the approval of the minutes? Diane, you may want to read that comment. I don't know, because it can be a little confusing that I wrote.
I think you were referring to the fact that item 8 on the minutes of the meeting state that the next meeting would be held on March 23rd. Do we need to update or notate that meeting is canceled until this meeting, or? Because the minutes read that we would have met in March and we haven't met since February.
Right.
Right.
I'm just suggesting that there must be some way, only because this is a legal document, that gap is closed.
Right. I'm not sure we need to close that gap as it relates to accepting the minutes. As written. Remember, the minutes only reflect what was discussed that evening. It does not refer to
Right.
whether any future meeting occurred or if it was postponed and ultimately, met at a different time. So I think, to be accurate, I think we need to accept the minutes as written, unless we have other issues, other concerns, and then separately address the fact that and we can certainly comment on it after we accept the minutes, that there are plausible reasons why both the March and the April meetings were canceled, and that the May meeting has been rescheduled till today. So again, this is just strictly. These are the minutes that we're referring to, not anything that happened subsequent to the minutes being written.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Okay. Well, let's hold on that comment for now. Did anyone else have other comments or any other discussion points before we vote on whether to accept the minutes?
No.
All right, then let me take the roll call vote, doing it alphabetically by first name. This is to accept the minutes as written. That the motion has been made and seconded. Anthony Antico,
Yes.
Diane Doyle,
Yes.
John Ferrara,
Yes.
John Lucy,
Yes.
and Mark Leckman, chair, yes. Thank you. Our next order of business is employee issues. I would ask either John and/or Diane to speak to whether you're familiar with any employee issues we need to address this evening. Or this afternoon.
There's none on my radar.
None that I'm aware of.
Diane, okay. Diane, just in general, tell us how this first week has gone with re-entry. I'm curious about the town
Actually,
hall
this
employees
is our
coming back.
this is our second week back in the office.
Okay.
It's been relatively fine. We've adjusted to the new norm of wearing a mask when we leave our office, and it's pretty much just the individual staff members that are within the first and second floor.
Right. And is that a full complement of staff members, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're all back on our regular schedule as opposed to rotating in one department at a time. Things have been fine. We haven't had any issues. We've carried on, the business. I mean, it's been pretty much since we all went out working remotely as well, continuing
Right.
to do the work. I haven't heard of any significant issues with services or requests not being met. So it's been fine. I know that there are going to be some things dependent upon how long this continues to go. Some folks that may need some accommodations under the federal law that's out there, but that's, we can talk about that a little later on in the agenda. But
Okay.
folks seem to be, fine wearing a mask. The offices are being disinfected every day by the DPW, and we've had plexiglass installed so that when we do open up to the public, there'll be plexiglass on the public facing counters. But I mean, all is well here. John, I don't know if you have any comment.
No, everything's pretty much the same. We're just going business as usual. I caught most of your stuff, Diane. My computer kept kicking in and out. I don't know if I got an internet problem here or what, but yeah, no, we are just kind of moving on to another world of problems. So.
Okay. And town library, same circumstances? Is staff there and but still not open to the public, or?
So I believe they're doing curbside pickup. I know that most staff are back to their regular hours. We do have one member who has a childcare issue. But they are not open to the public, but they are doing, I believe this week, they're starting with curbside pickup.
Right.
4 to 5 days a week.
Okay.
I can't remember the schedule, but I know that they're back.
Okay.
They should all be in the office, in the library. I just don't,
Right.
can't remember the hours of the curbside pickup.
Okay, so some of this we could also address under safety issues as well as we get there further down the agenda. I'm just curious, it sounds like there's been no, for lack of a better term, no pushback from employees. Might this board anticipate anyone coming to us with any concerns about the pace at which town hall offices have reopened to the employees? Has there been any sense of concern about, again, either safety issues or the propriety of town hall being open at this point to the employees?
I think pretty much everyone was, on board with coming back under the plan. It was very detailed about the cleaning that would happen, the protocol that would occur as far as who was in the office, what the expectations were if you step foot outside your office, that you'd be wearing a mask. And
Right.
I believe, like I said, there are a few people who I don't have all the details, but that will be unable to return to their regular schedule given some COVID-19 related
Right.
absences, I guess, for lack of a better word. So, and those will require, making sure that we're following and being consistent with documenting, communicating with those employees, documenting what's allowed.
Sure.
So I know, to this point, the town was very accommodating and making sure that folks got paid and worked from home and all of that. But
Right.
my understanding, it's gone pretty well. We have, like I said, a couple of situations that will need to be addressed, but other than that, I haven't heard of any significant pushback or concern about safety or.
Okay. And we don't want to presuppose that, but, in times like these, as you mentioned, given family circumstances, given childcare needs circumstances and the like, there's always the potential that something may pop that would require this board's attention. So please make sure to pass along to Tracy and, to anyone else involved, any of the managers involved. Should there be a need for this board to help in any way, we stand ready to do so.
Okay.
Any other commentary? Anyone else like to be recognized to further this discussion under employee issues? If not, let's move to personnel actions and job vacancies. Again, it's been 3 months since we've had any discussion about recently filled positions or those that we anticipated to have filled by now. Diane, could you give us an update on that?
Yep. So we've had, during this COVID-19 different time that we've had 3 new full-time employees who have started. We have the administrative assistant to the inspectional services department who started on May 4th. That's Gretchen Gerard. She's from Newbury, and she is the new administrative assistant for the inspectional services department.
Right.
Started, remotely that first week, sort of came in, and now she's back in the office full time, and she's been here a month, so she's doing great. 2 other new positions within the inspectional services department. I think back in March, Peter Bennett joined us as the new building commissioner, building inspector. So he's been here going on a couple of months now. And then just as recently as today, we have started our new conservation agent. Doug Packer is in the process of retiring and will be leaving us at the end of the month. So William Holt joined us from the town of Wilmington and has started full-time as the new conservation agent.
Great.
All of those onboardings have gone smoothly despite, some of the nuances of getting people in the office and started. So it's nice to see a full department there. I think it'll be a welcome, group as we do open up to the public, that we'll have a full staff there now that's
Right.
fully on board. It's actually been nice that they've had the opportunity to sort of get their feet on the ground before the public, has been in here. So those 3 new positions have been filled during the last 60 to 75 days or so. Let's see. The only other one I had was that there were some changes that were being proposed by the library, and that goes back, back to February. So that sort of have fallen. I don't know if you have an update on that.
No, just referring back to the minutes of the meeting, Dick Passeri was, at that point, had intended to present to the FinCom. And based on the results of that conversation, he perhaps was going to come to us with, or somebody would come to us with some reclassification possibilities, but I have not heard anything about that since that time.
Okay. I have not, and I don't think Tracy has, so.
Okay. All right, yet to be determined. Thank you. John, anything to report relative to personnel actions and/or job vacancies in the PD?
Nope, no. We're looking at a couple of applicants for part-time comm personnel, communications personnel, but nothing's moved forward to one
Okay.
level yet.
Okay,
Just vetting them out.
thank you. Does anyone else have questions or commentary in the category of personnel actions and job vacancies?
None.
No.
Thank you. And next item on the agenda is discrimination and/or ethics issues. None that I am aware of. Diane, John, anything that you can speak to?
Nope.
Diane?
Nope.
No? Okay. Next item on the agenda is safety issues. Again, we started to hit on this as it relates to the reopening of town hall, library, and such. From a safety standpoint, John, is there anything else that you would like to add or anything else
Nope.
that needs
No,
to
I
be
think-
done?
No, I think Diane touched on all of it. The highway department and the other agencies are doing everything they need to do, and we're good.
I think I'll add that, I feel like the town has done a great job in communicating both the expectations, but also what's being done to provide what, is the best, safest environment. I think I want to Chief Riley, Deb Rogers, Tracy, John Lucy, they've all done a fantastic job of communicating what's expected and what's being done. So I think overall, as I stated earlier, I don't think there's been any significant issues at all.
Wonderful. Glad to hear that. The only thing I can think of, and again, it's something we can, not today, certainly address in our next meeting in a few weeks, and that is, even though it's a separate issue, the steps that the town has taken to ensure both public and employee safety as it relates to both town meeting and the town election coming up. I know there's been lots of discussion internally and in the public about hours for voting, location of town meeting, And while there are no perfect solutions, it seems to me, as a citizen, that the town has done a great job of anticipating what might be happening in the coming months, especially in June. And I think they've made the right allowances, both for timing and location of town meeting, having switched now to Triton High School auditorium to help with social distancing requirements, as well as the work that the town is doing specifically through Leslie Haley in efforting to get as much information to as many people as possible regarding the opportunity to do absentee ballot write-ins to home in effect. And at last count, I think, last time I heard Leslie discuss it, I think she was up to well in advance of, was it 13, 14, 1,500 people
Yes.
had already requested ballots to be sent in, which was great news. And so again, as it bumps up against safety issues, if between now and our next meeting, anyone hears of any concern in the public or among the employee population about whether the town has done everything necessary to ensure everyone's safety, please feel free to bring it to the table.
Is in anticipation of that, Mark, just to build on that a little bit, the only question or the concern I have is, as an HR board, do we just want any public concerns about public safety steps taken? Do we want to just collectively have a referral information to give to them, not so much bring it to our board? I don't know if it's our purview to deal with the public issues or concerns, but it's definitely something that we'd want to have I agree with you, we'd want to have some sort of an answer to, but I just don't know what the direction would be. Is that something we'd bring to our table, or would that be something that we'd want to refer them to somebody?
Yeah, it's a great question, John. I would certainly ask that this board be, as it always is, to be as accommodating as necessary to help any constituency. But your point's a good one. I think, in terms of purview, I think our responsibility is to, in no particular order, town employees, Board of Selectmen, and town administrator. And that's, it's not that we're restricted in that regard, but typically, we do not deal with issues that relate to the public, whether they be safety issues or human resource issues.
Mm-hmm.
That said, there's no reason why this board cannot act as a means of disseminating information, advice. So, happy to take that on if you folks feel that's an appropriate responsibility, or if not responsible, it's an appropriate thing to ask this board to take on.
Right. I think if we're going down, if we're going to be anticipating those types of inquiries, which I think is reasonable, as anybody could, as sort of town officials, we just might want to have the dialogue prepared. I don't know if we want to say we'll bring that to our next HR board when we talk about crowd control at Plum Island Center. I think we might want to be able to just have a collective, a soundbite of, talk to Tracy or talk to somebody, or be able to refer them to somebody. I think that maybe we just want to make sure that that's clear. That's all.
Yeah, good point. Other thoughts? Tony, John, Diane? Let's open up the conversation.
Well,
I agree.
safety is a centerpiece for all levels at this point. Gatherings, you think about 1,500 collective absentee ballots. That's an extraordinary number so early in the game.
Right.
As far as town hall is concerned, when you think about the meeting coming up, you worry about the participation, whether it be at Triton Regional High School as a larger auditorium that needs to be spoken to. You think about the gathering points and the choke points of just getting into that meeting, signing up, getting your hand stamped. There's a lot to be said for it.
Right.
A lot to be said. There's a lot of thinking is going to have to go into how we the calculus of every one of these several hours gathered inside a closed building.
Right.
It's going to be a difficult issue, and where the responsibility lay is important.
Yep. Thank you, John. Tony, Diane.
Tony?
Now, I was thinking, that's a great idea that John had, both Johns had. But if you're going to mean, are you planning to work, for example, with the local newspaper? Because every now and then they come out with an excellent information on COVID preparation, safety concerns, automobile concerns, et cetera, whatever the case may be. But to be able to anticipate every single question somebody might have related to safety, I mean, now I think, you're writing a book. So it has to be extremely selective, and there are groups of people. Like one place that I read constantly, although it's a different town, Amesbury, I read that Officer Hanshaw's article every week, and he has all kinds of information that he's been doing for years, apparently. So I think, to anticipate, but yet limited by certain kinds of groups, the questions for seniors, for example. You don't want everybody in town calling up the police department and say, well, you're the safety officer, what do I do here? No, it's a panoply of areas that people can go to for more in deeper guidance, I would think.
Right.
The guidance in town, not only on the website, but certainly the local newspaper gives a lot of that.
True. Well, what we don't want to do is step on toes, certainly. I think it's important that there are either singular or small group representations of what the town of Newbury feels are, the right protocols to be put in place. And certainly in terms of safety and emergency management, that's Chief Riley and his team. And as it relates specifically to the election, that would be certainly town administrator and or town clerk. So I would see us in kind of a secondary role on an as-needed basis, acting in an advisory capacity, given as, some of our backgrounds, whether it's legal background, human resources background, whatever it may be. And so my thought would be, perhaps I could reach out to the chief, reach out to Leslie, and reach out to Tracy, and just let them know that should they need backup, should they need additional support, extra hands to be able to share information with the public on an as-needed basis, that we're happy to be involved to whatever extent they would like. What I don't want to do is get anyone confused that we are an official source of information in that regard. So if the board thinks it appropriate, I'm happy to send a note to Tracy, to Leslie, and to Chief Riley, offering whatever help and services we can provide if the town feels it's appropriate. Would that be sufficient, or?
I think so.
John, Tony, John, you okay with that?
I agree with that, yeah.
Okay.
Just a mild comment is that it's probably a little detached from our purview, and always good to be able to say that we're here as backup, and for any cerebral contributions we can make. We're all common sense members of the town, and every comment is valued as long as it's filtered. And
Sure.
But we have to send it up through the chain of command to make it organized. Needs to go up through chief.
Sure, thank you for that. And I'm glad to report that for the first time in 12 plus years, I've heard the word cerebral used as it relates to this board.
But I use it sparingly.
We'll accept that in the spirit in which you offer, John.
There you go.
Okay, anything else in the category of safety issues?
No.
Okay, how about other business or new business? Is there anything else anyone would like to bring up? I have nothing.
Not a thing.
We, under other business in the minutes, we had a few things, but obviously, given everything that we've had to try to navigate over these last couple of months, There hasn't been much movement on the Corey policy. I will double back with Tracy on that.
Right, I think we finished our deliberations on the sick pool bank policy. That is now in the rearview mirror. Corey was on hold. And I'm not aware of any other new business we had pending at this point. I know Tracy did have a couple of deliverables that have been sort of waylaid, but
Yep. So the only conversation that I had with Tracy in anticipation of that she would not be here for the meeting was, again, just looking to the future. If, you know, I think, as we all can imagine, we don't know how long this will continue, or at what point the public will be back, or at what point people won't be subject to possibly a quarantine or a child not having daycare, or et cetera, that at some point as these things unfold, that she has the ability to come to the board for advice as it relates to, you know, consistency and handling of some of these situations. So that was the only thing that she said. So, you know, reading as much as we can about, you know, the CARES Act and Family Medical Leave Act as it relates to the new COVID-19. I've certainly gotten my fair share of information that, you know, that if at some point she may come to us with just kind of, you know, seeking our advice or seeking our input on those individual situations.
sure. I'd be shocked if she didn't come to us with anything. You know, the likelihood is that over these coming months, you know, something will pop out of the woodwork that we didn't anticipate, that's, you know, specific to COVID-19, or at least, you know, relate enough to it so that it's something new and different. And so, as always, we'll respond in a timely fashion and offer our best judgment.
Yep. I mean, but other than that, there really wasn't anything in particular that she had. I think she has a couple of forms for you to sign, but short of that, I think she just, you know, at some point will be probably in touch with us with the, you know,
Sure.
like,
Well, look, at the pace at which things are starting to reopen, if there is no slide backwards, you know, if we are feeling week by week more secure, more comfortable in, you know, still practicing social distancing and still wearing masks and doing all the other things that the government is recommending, but perhaps feeling more comfortable with meeting, then I can see a scenario where, you know, our next scheduled meeting, which is it the 22nd? Is that what we decided to do to get caught up?
yes.
I think we said 3 weeks from today, the 22nd will be our June meeting.
Yes.
You know, I would anticipate that might be our last Zoom meeting if things continue to progress. You know, now we're talking 7 weeks or almost 2 full months to what would be our July meeting, which is the 27th. That would be the 4th Monday in July. This may not be in our rearview mirror by then, but I would hope that we might all feel comfortable enough, as long as there's no, you know, backwards movement, that, you know, we can practice social distance and be together in Town Hall on July 27th. But let's cross that bridge, as they say. So, any other discussion relative to other or new business?
No, but one other thing that popped into my head was that you had presented the Human Resources Board fiscal 2019, actually it would have been calendar year 19, the annual report, which I think happened after our last meeting.
That's correct.
So I wanted to just circle back with that. And first of all, thank you for your time in putting that together, but also that had been submitted, I think, to Ellen quite some
Correct.
time ago in anticipation of town meeting being in April.
Correct.
So I think we're all set with that. I don't think that there was any.
That's my understanding. I have not heard anything subsequent to providing it to Ellen so she could pass it along to the board for the town meeting.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, that's in place
Okay.
and you know, ready to rock and roll. So,
All right.
any further discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second,
Second?
we are adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's just to confirm, our next meeting is the 22nd, 3 weeks from today at 4 PM. And anticipate that it will once again be a Zoom meeting.
Okay,
Diane, I would thank you in advance for the board for getting the materials out on a timely basis. So
okay.
we all good?
We're good.
Stay
Good.
safe and healthy, everyone.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Be safe.
Bye now.
Thank you. Good night.